Oh, I am so mad. Oh my God. So we had started this podcast maybe 10 minutes ago, and I was happy with it. Very happy with it. And I had not been recording the audio. So welcome to Take Your Shoes Off podcast.
Scoop-doo. Thanks.
Oof.
Blabbity blue. Scoop-dee. Oh yeah. It's so funny. It's so great. All
Everything
right.
we did was so. It was the
just
best
money.
thing I've ever done. It was the best thing I've ever done.
Do we cliff note it or do we deliver the illusion of the first?
We cliff note it.
My socks.
Well, first was I have to start the podcast off by saying, hey man, will you take your shoes off? So Taran stepped aside, away from the microphones, away from the camera, behind the light,
so as not to affect your shot.
Right.
For those who are streaming the YouTube video version of this podcast.
And you don't have to get up again, but move away from the microphone so I could say this. Hey man, you mind taking? Hey, will you take your shoes off?
Yeah, you got
it. And then he came on in, and I noticed his socks.
Yeah. I like fun socks.
Mm-hmm. Do you always wear fun socks? Or
Mostly, unless I'm at the gym, then I'll wear a sweat sock.
Socks, right. Darn Tough, my sock.
Darn Tough, is that the name of the sock or where you buy them?
That's actually the name of the sock.
Here's the thing about me. I do have an issue with feet. I don't like socks beneath the ankle because I feel they slip beneath the shoe.
So here's where I'm getting a little nervous.
Oh, dear.
You said, the way you said you do everything with feet was as if I already established that a lot of people have a thing with feet, and I never got that out in this round.
Okay. But you said do the Cliff Note version, so I didn't feel we needed. Now you're just asking to.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
I repeat all the territory.
Okay, I'm wrong.
Or did I skip a Cliff Note? Is what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, what happened was I talked about these socks, and I said when I found them, it was guaranteed not to smell and never to get wet, which was never an issue for me anyway. Yeah. But I thought, no way, let me see, and I bought them for $18 a piece.
Yeah. This is already longer than the first version we did. So here's the thing. Before you said that, you said, now, here's something I'm going to do on the show, but a lot of people have weird things with feet.
Yes.
But I do ask my guests to show off their sock if they're comfortable with that. And so I leapfrogged that immediately into showing off my Brandy and Cigar foot sock, fun sock, love a fun sock, wear a sweat sock at the gym, don't like a low ankle sock. If it stayed there, probably still have an issue with it. Anders Holm, previous guest,
yes, suggested I sell socks,
sell custom socks.
Take your shoes off, which I could get at Zazzle. You said
Zazzle, or customink.com.
Dude,
that's where I get my wrap gifts done. For a lot of people listening,
no. I'm done. I
don't know how much to do or not do.
No. So I want to acknowledge.
Hey, were you on the Comedians?
I want to acknowledge two things. One, your instinct of where to trim the fat was perfect.
Oh.
However, then you went on for a while, and I think that's on me.
Okay.
I honestly, and everything will be fine in 3 minutes.
Great.
I got to tell you where I am.
Yeah, tell me.
I'm chemically affected.
Okay.
I'm chemically affected because I was honestly so happy with how it was going.
We're in the groove.
And not only do we lose that, now there's this forced fucking, let's do the sock thing again, which wasn't good because of the content, but just the chemistry and the energy.
It was great.
Now we're almost 4 minutes in.
Oh, geez.
And let's start the podcast. Oh, man. Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm unable to move past something and fake it.
Okay. I do that as a profession, so.
That's why you work.
You know?
That's why you work. All right. I know how to do this.
Okay, great.
Let me take the lead for 1 second.
Jesus, take the wheel.
So when you first walked in, before we started, you noticed
Rick.
some Mike Tyson Punch-Out pictures on the wall.
I did. You seem to have a framed profile picture of every opponent from Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Right.
Not Little Mac, obviously.
Well, we're Little Mac.
We are Little Mac, collectively,
yeah.
Figuratively and literally when you play. And I told you, I launched into a story from my SNL days, Saturday Night Live, for folks not in the biz, about possibly my favorite sketch I ever wrote that went to table and then didn't get produced. I wrote it with Brooks Wheelan. And it was an ESPN 30 for 30, which is a docuseries on ESPN about Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. And John Goodman was the host, and we had him play King Hippo.
You said play, so you actually shot this.
we had him read it at the table. We read it at the table, and it did not get picked to be produced. But I still stand by that sketch and think it would have been a very successful digital short.
Is there a world where you could, now that you're off of Saturday Night Live, take all the sketches that you wrote and then just make them?
Probably, yeah.
Is there a world where that is in association with SNL, even if it's just digital?
Here's the thing. If one were to do that and it were to become successful, I think SNL would be the show, and NBC as its producing studio would be well within their rights to have a cease and desist or...
But I'm saying to pitch this to them as an ancillary, web-only, promotional...
Yeah, it's possible.
What is it called when the dress rehearsals are cut? It's called something, right? Or is it just
Cut
called...
for time?
Yeah, there's the title.
Cut for time.
Yeah.
Yeah, which isn't always the case. Sometimes it's just cut for quality.
Well, you don't post you don't do the...
It could be that. I mean, that's sort of
So just
more
bad
charming.
sketches? Yeah, maybe.
Cut for quality? That's more endearing to me than cut for time. Because that feels false to me. That feels like you're faking something. Like cut for time. It should have been in the show, but whereas cut for quality is you be the judge. Is this as bad as we thought?
So this wasn't good enough to be on SNL, but here's a
maybe you disagree.
Yeah.
I think that's more illuminating to me.
Yeah, cut for quality is great.
Great.
Yeah. Thanks for
Where do
coming
I
in,
sign?
man.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for
Appreciate
sure.
it. So you'll write, or you'll reach out.
What does that mean?
Oh, I thought I was here pitching cut for quality.
Oh, no, I was...
For those not in the biz, pitching is when you try to sell a concept or an idea or a script of a show in order for it to be produced and to get paid for it.
I was more saying podcast is over because...
It's not going to get better than that?
I mean, that's such a... Yeah.
Or it's not going to get better than the 10 minutes that we didn't record?
Nothing I will ever do will get better for the 10 minutes that we didn't record. But I was saying we're going to cut this for quality was the joke I was making.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you were born in California.
I was.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
And that doesn't just go for this one sentence.
Oh, great. Just in life.
If you see me in a month and I do...
Some thoughts.
When one finds out that somebody who lives in California is from California, I'm supposed to go like this. What? Nobody's from here.
That is an industry standard response.
An ISR.
And I have developed my own ISR, which is, I think California natives who are in showbiz tend to be a little more rare just because people move to California with the purpose of being in show business. But I think being a California native is not that rare. I just think they get normal people jobs.
Okay. Cross that one off the list.
Great.
You were born in California.
Yep.
Culver City.
Yes, sir.
City of Industry.
No, City of Industry is off the 5.
I'm not going to argue about this.
Okay. Because I'm right.
Okay. I feel like LA is just a city of industry.
Los Angeles has an area called the City of Industry.
No.
Okay.
No, I think you're wrong.
All right.
And
We can easily look at a map.
okay.
If you drive from here to Disneyland down the 5, you drive through the City of Industry.
Okay. I'm going to put up a map for the people on
That'll be a fun little ancillary online piece of information.
Yeah. AOPOI, assuming ancillary starts with an A. So, as a person who was born in the City of Industry and you are now in the industry, is this something that you always want to do? Because I found out, I looked up a little bit about you and I found out something that I actually have to talk to the people who own this building because I made a little bit of a dent in the floor by how fast and hard my jaw dropped.
Oh, boy.
You were in Naked Gun 33 1/3.
Yeah.
1994.
Correct. Either that or Unsolved Mysteries got me into SAG. One of them got me Taft-Hartley, which is sort of like a permit to enter into SAG. It's sort of, we're going to pay to make you Taft-Hartley, which means the next union job you get through SAG, you'll officially be a member.
The Screen Actors Guild.
Correct. And I think Naked Gun is the one that got me into the union. And then Unsolved Mysteries got me Taft-Hartley.
So, are we allowed to discuss your age?
Whatever. Yeah, I'm 37 as of like 5 days ago.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So in 1994, you're 13?
I think that's maybe the movie release. I think I remember being 12 when it shot.
Okay,
Yeah.
what was the role? I don't remember.
I was, it was in the third movie, the climax of the film takes place at the Oscars, and they keep showing clips of nominated films. And I was Boy from Geriatric Park.
I remember that.
Okay, so I was the
Oh, wow.
Joe Mazzello in the car. I was the
We'll
kid.
pull up a clip.
And for his tale of genetics gone haywire in a retirement community, Steven Spielberg, Geriatric Park.
And now you're an actor, and you're a Taff-Ard lead. I don't know if you're in the union yet, but you're able to be. And this is
Yeah.
what you want to do now for a living?
Yeah, I don't know that the decision was firm at that point. I was living in Big Bear then. My family moved to Big Bear when I was 6.5 or 7. And that work that kind of got me into the union around age 11, 12, 13 was like just these little teeny jobs that was enough to show that, oh, I could pursue it if I wanted to. Is it my passion? Do I want it to consume my life? I definitely did not at that point. I wanted to kind of just be a normal kid. So I finished middle school and then
wanting to be a normal kid sounds like something an adult would say they want for their kid. Do you have the wherewithal as a 12-year-old to be like, I want to be normal?
For sure, yeah. I don't want to be pulled out of school and drive for 2.5, 3 hours to go audition in a small room.
And you knew that's what the world was.
Yeah. I'd been auditioning since I was 5, off and on. Like, we would do bursts of it for a few months, and then I'd be like, I'm done. And my parents were not one to force it. But it was something that they sort of presented as an option, just because I was fairly precocious, and I think they knew that maybe I could do it. Maybe I could succeed at it. And then in high school, I auditioned for and was accepted to the arts high school here in LA called LACHSA. And towards the end of my high school career, I started auditioning again in earnest and getting jobs.
You were doing like Disney shows, right?
Yeah, some Nickelodeon, some Disney guest star stuff. Yeah.
Did you have a dream? Did you say when I grow up, I want to be doing? Was SNL something that was a dream of yours?
Not at that point.
Because those kid shows were sketch shows that you were doing.
Yeah. Some of them, Dan Schneider, who created all that, and the Amanda Show, and Drake and Josh, was very kind to me and very sort of became a mentor of sorts to me. He allowed me to kind of pitch sketches and sort of ghost write for a season of all that, which was really fun.
Cool.
And then I did some small performing stuff on that show.
What were you more attracted to at the time, writing sketches or performing in them?
I knew acting, I knew performing, so that sort of felt like the bread and butter. But I think what motivated me and what I was passionate or ambitious towards was self-generating content and creating my own stuff.
So writing, but for you to be in.
Yes.
And then you got on Mad TV. You're still a teenager. You're 19 or so?
Yeah, so I graduate high school. I'm working a little bit. And
working
then,
as an actor.
Yes, and then...
Did you ever have a job other than an actor?
Never did.
You never clocked in, had a...
Never. I tried to get a job at Pacific Theaters in Manhattan Beach, which is where my family moved back to once I got into the arts high school, and they didn't accept me.
I find a lot of people tell me about the jobs they couldn't get, and yet they're getting the jobs that they do get.
Yeah.
And as if it's harder to get a specific theater job,
Right.
theater job than it is on SNL.
Yeah, I don't know. It was for me.
So you don't have a real job ever in your life. You've been
No.
auditioning since you're 5 years old.
Yeah.
You're getting on shows. You're ghostwriting. You get on Mad TV. And I'm sorry, you were saying?
Oh, well, I did a year at UCLA first for musical theater, because that's sort of what became my passion through, middle school, but mostly high school. And then certainly by the time I graduated, I was doing a lot of musical theater at
You
LACHSA.
graduated, but you only did a year. What does that mean?
Graduated high school,
Gotcha.
and then a year of college at UCLA. And then towards the end of my freshman year at UCLA, I got Mad TV.
And then you said, I'm done with college.
I said, I'm gonna defer for 6 months and see what happens. But I just kind of kept working.
Are you an only child?
No, middle of 5.
What are the other ones? Anybody in the entertainment business?
My older sister Rachel is a comedian and musician. My younger brother Taylor is a musician. My younger sister Danielle is sort of a curator, and oh god, I'm gonna butcher what she actually does, but she's a preservationist. I don't know if that's right. Sorry,
For
Danny.
like parks?
For museums for fashion. She works at Skirball Center, and she helps install a lot of their sort of featured presentations that they'll have there. She's the one who's like put that mannequin there and hang this poster here and do that. But then she's also she's the one who has to categorize everything and file it away and make sure it's packed and preserved properly. And then my older sister Erin is an executive associate at an electrical company.
So 80% of the kids are in the arts of some kind.
Yeah,
Your parents artistic?
yeah,
And you're a musical guy, huh?
yeah.
You did, I'm going out of order, but something I didn't know about you was that you played King Lear, was in King Lear.
I think you misread. I played King George III in Hamilton.
Okay, oh, you did?
Yeah,
I didn't know you were in Hamilton.
I did Hamilton.
That's an
The
awesome.
third.
That's an awesome role,
It was a blast.
and you did it on Broadway, dude.
Yeah.
That to me, dude, and you know this better than anybody, is the mecca. To be able to be in New York City,
Oh.
to do SNL,
Yeah.
to do one of the biggest shows on Broadway.
Yeah.
Why are you living in LA, dude?
Because I it's my home and I like it better here.
You heard it here first. He was on Broadway, was on SNL, but California is his home.
Yeah.
And he loves it here better. We're going to take a real quick break to do our first sponsor, which is Darn Tough Socks. So we'll be back in one sec, guys. Thanks for tuning in to Take Your Shoes Off with Rick Glassman.
Darn tough!
And then I'll probably edit it there.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put in the jingle.
Have you ever thought about calling it Take Your Shoes Off for Rick Glassman?
Yes. Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah. But at this point,
It's
I
too
already
late.
paid
You're ready.
the girl on Instagram $100 to make the album art,
$100, good deal.
Great deal. And I said, because she knows what
And
she's
how'd
doing.
you find her?
I posted on my Insta story, hey, does anybody do this?
Great.
And then somebody who works for the Jim Jeffries podcast
Oh,
suggested me to Christy, they work together sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I reached out, Christy, how you doing? This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm looking for. I understand it's this is your job. I don't have a budget. If you could do this for $100 and I'll tag you or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
She said, yeah. I was shocked.
Great.
And also, here's something that doesn't happen much. She said, yeah, I'll get it to you this weekend. She got it to me that weekend.
Wow.
I said, okay, I gave her a couple notes. She got it to me the next day. I said, this is good as is if need be. I know I'm not paying you anything. If you wouldn't mind a small thing, basically the
A
width and the
nudge
Rick.
of yeah.
I wanted the width and Rick Glassman on the same line as opposed to two, so it didn't make it. So it was like there was the title and the with Rick Glassman. I don't want
Right.
three things.
Yeah.
She did it with a couple of different font options. She sent the the Photoshop files.
Mm-hmm.
I'm used to working with trash. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm used to working with people like me who you don't get paid, you don't start the audio on time because nobody knows what they're doing. You're coming on in. I try too hard.
Yeah.
I sometimes try too hard with There's a difference between being a guest on a podcast and hosting it.
Sure.
I could kill a guest. I'll come in, I'll do my thing, I'll shut up.
Yeah.
I feel a responsibility to make sure you're having a good time.
Yep.
Make sure the audience is interested. If I think something's going sour, I want to chime in, but my instincts are shit.
Okay.
So when am I cutting you off too much? When am I talking about, this for too long?
Yeah.
I'm feeling it now.
Not yet.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
So as a host, you're not trusting your guest instincts.
Oh, the guest. No. I want the guest to be comfortable. I'll never listen to their instincts because some of them are coming in. They're comics. Some of them are scientists.
Yeah.
None of them are scientists.
Some have done SNL and Broadway.
I have to tell you, I do trust your instincts, and I don't remember if I said this before the camera was on or not. It was when it was on. You told me your Cliff Notes were right. You hit the beats right.
Sure.
Also, you and I briefly discussed. So I went to a murder mystery dinner theater show.
I'm going Saturday.
Ooh, enjoy.
Thank you.
I went to see my cousin perform. Shout out to Miranda DeMeo. And I loved everything about it. I loved the actual theater aspect of it. I loved the dining aspect of it. I loved the corniness of it. I loved the mystery of it. The whole thing was this beautiful genre that I had
immersiveness too.
Yes,
You're in it.
You're part of it.
Yes,
I'm in the room with them.
That's important. Yeah,
I've experienced them a few times, and every time this is amazing. I posted a little clip. You connected with me on it, and then we met up and we discussed potentially making one at some point, which I would I'd still love to.
Absolutely should do. Yes,
but when we met at the Burger Lounge in Culver City, you had some ideas and thoughts that I do remember thinking, this guy's because I don't think you came in prepared with it. Just your instincts of where to continue and where not to. I just remember thinking like, this guy wrote on the best sketch show of all time. I mean, I knew that, but also like I'm watching your mind do that. So long version around saying, not only do I trust your instincts, I actually had that. I'm going to say something that I never know is 3 words or 1, but who cares? Nobody's typing this. Wherewithal. 3 or 1.
I say 1.
I trust you. God damn it. If I find out otherwise, we'll have to recalibrate the whole thing. Like this back and forth.
Yeah.
Is this too stream of consciousness? I'm rambling. You know, like.
I'm an avid podcast listener. That's my preference. The random stream of consciousness, because as you're talking, I'm so much more engaged than the bullet points of my career.
Right.
So maybe it's selfish, maybe it's just me as a guest, but as a listener too, you're exploring. I like hearing the unexpected. I like hearing, and the fact that we've spent a good chunk on murder mystery dinner theater already is more engaging to me personally for what it's worth.
I do,
and also as you're talking. You say that speaking towards like, oh, my instincts are not good, or I try too hard, or whatever. But I've noticed just in this conversation how good you are at utilizing the benefits and the tools of social media, which are fascinating and interesting to me, in that you can reach out and find a very talented artist for $100 who's willing to collaborate, and that we can connect and pitch an idea, and that you're constantly showcasing your journey as a comedian and as an artist. I think that you're actually very efficient, and your instincts are very good on that.
My eyes aren't watering. Sincerely, they're not.
Okay. Okay.
One more thing would have got them to watering.
Shit. All right.
One more. So, do you have any?
Yeah. And the fact that you are here producing the professionalism with which you are supporting your guest, your podcast, your vision through equipment, through the ingenious insightfulness of going above and beyond and cracking the factory settings.
I didn't even start the audio.
I'm just trying to get you to cry, you little bitch.
When I get my eyes water, and which is a cry. It's not the same as crying where like I feel like I'm crying. I just can't control the eye watering.
Yeah.
When I have sincere conversations with people, and it's not even like you're saying like, oh wow, I think my value comes from my ability to do social media. It had nothing to do with the social media thing, but just the connection of, oh, this person noticed something, whatever it may be, and felt safe to communicate it to me.
Yeah.
That to me gets my eyes watering.
Wonderful.
So I thanks for saying that, man.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for connecting with me.
My pleasure.
But more importantly, you got to tell me to be quiet. And again, this doesn't just go with the podcast.
Sure.
It's a tough line to dance between, okay, it's his turn to talk, and there's a silence to fill.
Yeah. Yeah. I ride that dance because I get tired of listening to myself, and I get tired of, I think we're good so far.
Okay.
Not as good as those first 10 minutes.
I'm not lying to the audience when I say, honestly, and I've done the Comedians on FX with Billy Crystal and Josh Gad.
Oh, I've heard of that show. I heard they gave a great rap gift.
yes, which we'll get into in the next break. It was the best thing I've ever done in my life.
Yeah. Sorry.
Now, I do have the audio from the camera, so we might go ahead and throw that first 10 minutes up as on some bonus
exclusive.
content.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. People are gonna like go and check it out and realize, oh, they literally just talked about socks for 10 minutes. I guess it was better than when they talked about socks on this version. Oh man, you know where I'm feeling right now?
What?
In the pocket.
Yeah.
The combination
We're back, baby.
of getting on the same page with you, the dopamine of the connection, the caffeine that's happening right now.
Very nice.
And the feeling safe that even if I'm doing it wrong, at least I acknowledged, yeah, I know I have a pimple on my face. There's nothing I could do about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
As opposed to putting a Band-Aid over it and pretending that people don't notice.
The only people who are going to care and comment are the people who aren't achieving as much as you.
That's fine. That's fine.
Mark Maron's not going to listen and chime in. And
I have an interesting story with Mark Maron.
Bring it.
That just happened.
I'd love to hear it.
I don't know Mark Maron.
I don't either.
Okay. I did a show at the Comedy Store last week. My family's in town. When I say my family, it's mom, dad, cousins, uncle, like more people than normally are in town. And my family, when they're in town, they come to shows. They come to shows all the time. But it was just the first time, other than playing my hometown, where like family came to a show, right? And it was a good show. Sarah Silverman, Mark Maron, Ron Funches, Rick Glassman. I was like, oh, cool. I want them to see like a show, not just me. And I went up and I was great.
Yeah.
I was great. I say this because...
Were you bolstered at all?
I don't know what that means.
Did you feel that having a contingency of blood relatives in the audience helped the tone?
If anything, that makes it harder.
Okay.
I feel safe in knowing that whatever I do, good or bad, it's going to be an unsustainable emotion once I get home. I mean, it's not going to matter either way because I'm never going to see these people again. Whether I do or not isn't the point. Just knowing that gives me a confidence of I'm going to do what I do best, good or bad. Having family there does sometimes make me feel like I have one at bat as opposed to I'm going to do this again tomorrow. I want to show them.
This will become a memory. This will become
Yes.
a family memory as opposed to a gig.
Which I'm making
a
up
set.
because they all believe in me already anyway.
Yeah. That's nice.
And I'm at a point, this was the first time, because I anticipated feeling those nerves, and I didn't for the first time. I think because they've all seen me enough at this point. But I went up and I did great. It was very weird. I did a very weird set, but I felt funny, and the audience responded as such. So I felt, oh, there's no disconnect here. Mark Maron went up after me and said... He sat down and he grabbed his face as I don't even know his stuff that well, but I feel like, oh, he's going to be upset about everything. And that's, his bread and butter.
Yes.
Both.
Yes.
He said, I've been doing this. I've been doing this for 30 years. And there's always one of those guys. And it gets a laugh and it's funny. And also, I know what he's doing. He's connecting with the audience on the way he feels. I didn't take it personally.
Yeah.
He did go into that was the first 2 minutes of his 10-minute set. So he talked about me. And funny, getting laughs. He was watching. He was clearly engaged, but he was not saying the nicest of things.
Right.
I was flattered.
Great.
Here's a guy that's spending time. I inspired these jokes. I mean, I didn't do anything, but I feel it's similar to when a female, whom of which I respect and have consent with, has an orgasm. I feel. Look what I did. I didn't do anything. Her body did it.
Sure.
There's been women that I've not been able to make climax. I'm gonna edit that part out. I always make women come. See, right now, you know what I'm feeling? I'm feeling like a cool jock. So I'm gonna continue.
Okay, great.
So, but afterwards, there were a couple of my friends that came up to me and said, "Oh, that was kind of shitty, huh?" And I didn't even have at the moment. I was thinking like, "Oh, I'm pissed. I'm not recording this."
Yeah.
And then when they said that, I thought, no. But I was also conscious of, oh, maybe he was not that I'm insulted as much as, oh, bummer. This guy who is that I look as above me, whatever that means.
Sure.
Just he's above me in the comedy world.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he liked me, and now I'm finding out he doesn't.
Sure.
And then the next day, I got a text from him, which I don't know how he got my phone number. He must have just asked the Comedy Store or whatever. And I don't want to read it because I'm already telling somebody else's business. It doesn't matter. But it was him just apologizing for doing something that I didn't even realize he did until somebody brought up. And I have this feeling now of like closeness to this guy. And like I want him to like me in a way that, of course, I want everyone to like me, but I want like, oh, this guy, I don't know.
Sure.
So that was kind of a lot of words to get to the point of that. But people have always been shitty to me my entire life. And it wasn't until a few years ago I realized, oh, I'm responsible for this. I'm annoying. I never knew I was annoying until recently. But people have been shitty. And joking or not joking, in the stand-up world especially, Rick, you don't tell jokes. What you're doing is weird. You're not blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever texted me after.
Yeah.
You know? And I just thought, like, that just made me, I mean, if, like, to me, the tool I'm learning is, if you want somebody to want your respect, find a charming way of putting them down and then apologize. And he also, like, complimented me in the apology. I was just feeling insecure about this, and what you're doing is unique. And
Sure.
I don't know what of that was sincere as much as he wanted to make sure that it could have been, oh, I don't want to be an asshole.
Right.
I still didn't like it. I don't know what it was, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So,
Well, from that story, I mean, I think to me, the most important point that I pick up on is it's all about how things make you feel, right? It doesn't matter what anybody else's intention is. You can't control their intention. But however it makes you feel is important. And if it makes you feel good, you need to cultivate more of that and be encouraging and open to that. And if it makes you feel bad, that's not valuable to your time and you're not deserving of that. So if you can find a way to kind of like let that roll off your shoulders and move forward from that, because honestly, it's your friends at first who I'm like disappointed in, because it's like, why are you stirring up shit or whatever? Although they're your friends and they're checking in.
yeah,
right?
I think they're
And
checking
following
in.
Yeah, of course.
and though you can't control people's intentions, what we could control as the deliverer of information
Yeah.
is a definition of intention. So if I do something and your reaction is different than what I anticipated it to be, which we all have that expectation,
Yes.
then the checking in of, oh, I remember I once when I first became aware of this in myself, I come off as very aggressive, which I never knew really, and then people told me this. They're wrong. You know, no, I'm not, because I know my intention. So you're wrong. But what I didn't understand was the receipt of the information is just as real as my intention behind it.
Sure.
So a girl was telling me a story, and I didn't understand what she was telling me. So I said I couldn't follow. Like, I didn't know the thesis of this. So I said, "What's your point?" Meaning, how do I understand what this is? And then her energy changed, and she said, "Oh, I was just saying." And then the story ended, and I realized something just happened. It must have been this. I asked, and she thought I was bored.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know what the point was because I was interested.
Yes.
So, as far as intention is concerned, it does matter, but it's not the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for people to define their intention, especially in a new relationship, to help calibrate what people mean. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I put more importance on intention only because if you then have to follow up with everyone and hold their insecurities, their insensitivities, their arrogance, their ego, if you have to follow through and take ownership of that, I don't know that I agree with that balance. But I do hear what you're saying. I think Mark following up, it's very considerate, you know, and nothing in that story feels off game because he's very interesting to me because I think anybody that listens to podcasts knows him as sort of, you know, this grandfather, this sort of pioneer figurehead of podcasts in general. And if you've listened to, you know, a good amount of them, which I have, you do start this relationship with this person that you've never really engaged with, and in that way sort of take ownership, which is a funny thing.
Yeah.
So as you're telling me this story, I'm like, yeah, that's Mark, even though I don't know this guy,
Right.
you know what I mean? But the curmudgeon thing is part of his persona on stage and part of who he certainly started out with. And
also
seemingly
the
has done
job
a lot
of any comedian is to be honest with that thing too.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, him to go in on that feels like a trick, and that he kind of acknowledges that the next day of like, I was feeling insecure, so I went that he went back to his sort of
everything
default
about
instinct.
it is so cool to me.
Yeah, it's great.
And I don't want to harp on this too much, but this is something that's been big in my life recently with this idea of intention and how to deliver information. And a lot of people communicate. Communication isn't about the delivery of information. I find with many people, it's the manipulation of it and saying something so you receive it a certain way. How you been, man? It's like just, you know, like you want to be polite and you want to be kind and you want to open the door for somebody, not because you want to do it, but because they know this is what this means.
Yeah.
And I do think it's important we shouldn't take ownership of other people's insecurities, but when you're starting a relationship, even telling you how the insecurity I'm feeling or why I did or didn't do something makes me feel safe, whether or not it's true that, oh, I understand Rick a little bit better now.
Totally.
And I feel safe to now tell him, Rick, stop, or,
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to tell one more story that's similar to that. It's
Awesome.
Very quick.
I love it.
Then thank you for having me on your podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Do you feel like we've done good work today?
I feel good. I don't know if anyone wants to listen to this. And the comments, if anyone did listen and would have comments, was Rick, shut up, let him talk. And I hope you could stay for a little bit more.
Of course.
But this happened 2 weeks before this, so a little less than a month ago. Same room, Comedy Store, and Neil Brennan went up after me. And I said I did great in this other show. I'm going to tell you again, this was the best reaction I've ever had in my entire life.
Oh, wow.
Okay? I'll be the first to tell you nobody bombs more than me.
Yeah.
Stand-up is impossible. I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
I've had some really great sets. It's why I still do it. I'm telling you of 2 of them out of the 10 I've had in my life. This show went... I didn't deserve the reaction I got.
Yeah.
There was a heckler, and this is a longer story, and I think it's a great story, and I'll tell it to another guest on another podcast. But the guy, I did this bit, and somebody said, "You wearing a wig?" And I ignored him.
Great.
And then he said it again, and I felt the instinct to acknowledge just to stop him. And I said, "What are you saying, man? What are you saying?"
Yeah.
And he said, "It looks like you're wearing a wig." And the most confident I could say, I said, he was sitting next to his girlfriend. I said, "That's not what your girl said last night," which is the worst comeback you could say. The joke was,
Classic.
Here it is.
Yeah.
My buddy John DeWalt, shout out to John DeWalt,
Love
is in the
John.
audience, and he does what he does for me all the time, which is he's the best hype man in the world. So right? The timing of him doing that, my feelings of this conditioned the audience to not recognize how the irony in what I was saying, and they all thought I just it's the Apollo.
Great.
They couldn't believe what I just murdered this guy with the 6th grade comeback.
Yeah.
So I don't understand what's happening. I'm sitting in it, and then I embody, and another thing,
geez.
So then
wow.
I just go in, and then I went in a way that was funnier, was like a real thing. So they were already up. So they're just boom, boom. I didn't know that he was heckling other people, so people already hate this guy. And then it just keeps going.
You're a hero of the night. Yeah.
I'm telling you, it wasn't just an applause break. 30% of the room were on their feet. I don't know if I've ever seen this. And again, I didn't earn this.
Okay.
I give it to the fact that the stars were aligned in some way. People did not like this guy, and DeWalt had perfect timing with the hype.
Yeah.
But I made the girl come. It's like, look what I did.
Sure.
So Neil Brennan must have walked in the last 20 seconds when I just say something to him, and the people are just losing their minds.
Yeah.
I'm getting off stage. It's not just high fives and pounds, huggings and talkings, and I had to walk by. I'm a king right now.
Yeah.
Neil goes on and says, "What did I just miss?" And he said, "People in the hallway are saying he's better than Pryor," making jokes about this. Yeah. And he says, "I've known Rick for a long time. I have never seen him do well." which is another version of those things. It's like, I'm so flattered. One, he thought I did well. Two, he saw me do well.
Right.
None of that was, oh, fuck, he was shitty to me. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So when Mark Maron did that 3 weeks later, I'm thinking I must be getting good.
Yeah.
These guys that I think are so great are saying shitty things about me and getting laughs.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was just another version. So when people said it to me, I did for a second revisit the Neil thing. Like, oh, wait a minute,
Yeah.
And then also realize I can't, it doesn't, none of it matters.
Yes.
But it was 100% a win when Neil burned me.
Yeah.
And then I realized, oh, maybe, I don't know. I don't know people's intentions. I just assume them. And if it gets a laugh the way I was trained, if something gets a laugh, it's worth it.
Totally.
Anyway. So in 2017, you were King Lear?
That's correct.
Now that's Shakespeare. There's no singing in that, correct?
Yeah, no, it's your facts are off, man.
Your opinion. It isn't the city of industry.
You don't know kings, but you know comedy. You know kings of comedy.
Yeah. Who are your kings of comedy?
Jim Carrey,
Of course.
Robin Williams, Monty Python, Mel Brooks, Lucille Ball for sure. A lot of I Love Lucy growing up, and Veggie Vitamin, one of the funniest episodes of television to this day, I think. Later in life, I really like later. The first British Office. Is this done? You're done.
No, it's good. I'm checking.
Famous people have complimented me too. Tom Hanks called after I did animatronic ride and said, "Who wrote that sketch?"
Okay. You know what? We're gonna get to that after the Kings. Is that true?
That is true. Yeah.
He called you. What do you call yourself?
He called the show. He said, "Who wrote that sketch?" That was and then 3 versions of it later was in it because he enjoyed it. Which was cool.
What's that feeling? Because you're seeing
Yeah.
these A-list people at literally every week.
Well, I can bridge it a bit. So Jim Carrey from In Living Color, I was all like Fire Marshal Bill and Veer DeMilo. Like I was all in.
Veer,
then.
is that the
Yeah, you're happy Yoshimi.
Yeah.
You know, very very into Jim Carrey. The first poster for Ace Ventura, I remember saying to my dad, like, "Dad, look, it's Jimmy. He's in a movie." It was like that. I was so on board, and then Ace Ventura just literally changed my life, and that became sort of my social game. For like
What does that mean?
Replicating or mimicking Ace Ventura at recess, at lunch, in classrooms became sort of my
literally
identity.
what your social.
And then and then it was Dumb and Dumber, and then it was
Mask.
Batman Forever, The Mask. It was Cable Guy, and so cut to my first season of SNL. I pitched this physical comedy sketch, which is this animatronic thing I did at Groundlings because Ryan Gall and Greg Roman, who were in Sunday Company with me, had written a sketch about the Carousel of Progress. Is this
the one that was in the graveyard?
Yeah, and the haunted. It was like a haunted like carnival ride, basically. And the
Great
animatronics
sketch.
come. Thank you.
You wrote
yeah,
it.
Fun. Yeah. Me, Rob Klein, sort of did borrowed the physicality from the sketch that Ryan and Greg did, and then we wrote these characters, and it was basically me and Bill and then Jim Carrey as possessed animatronic people in a creepy carnival ride. So it's this physical comedy thing. It gets picked for the show, and that's always so exciting.
And you write it in mind knowing that Jim is the guy playing.
Correct. Yeah. And they produce it, and you're building the set, and you're choosing the costumes, and I wrote the song for it, and then at Dress, which is we do a full tape show at 8 p.m., which I wonder if they do that. They must do it because just for East Coast, and then they do it at 8 p.m. there, and then 11:30 because they're airing both coasts at the same time now, which is 2-ish years new or something. But we would do the 8 p.m. show. It'd be half an hour, 45 minutes long, and then the live show, they'd cut the fat.
Cut for quality.
And then at Dress, we do it, and a similar thing, we do the sort of first physicality of it, and it's Jim and me and Bill. And after that first one, we kind of lower back down behind the wall, we get an applause break, which doesn't happen frequently at that show. And that moment, more than any other moment on SNL, is forever like crystallized in amber for me, because it's like I lower behind this like wooden wall, and you can see the staple nails and stuff coming through the boards, and it's all smoke and mirrors, and I look to my left, and it's Jim Carrey, my hero, like giving me a thumbs up, and to my right is Bill Hader, who I respect few people more, is like, it's going really good, but and I just like, how does it get better than this? And it didn't.
That's an unbelievable story.
It was really, really cool. Yeah. And the sketch got picked, and it went on. It did very well, and we got to do it a lot more. And then the next week, Steve Higgins, the producer, was like, "Hey, Tom Hanks called me and asked who did that sketch, because I guess he and his brother grew up going to a carnival, and they said it was just like this creepy ride. And so if he's ever on the show, that's one to do." And he came and he did a guest spot in that sketch, which was very cool. But
wow.
But yeah, the moment of your hero becoming your co-collaborator those were like the highest highs on that show.
Was there any connection with Jim from there, that like an Instagram follow, a number exchange?
Kind of, yeah. So he came back again, he hosted again, but then at the 40th, we were both in the Celebrity Jeopardy sketch at the 40th anniversary, and he'd been rehearsing all week, and I think on live air, like there's a camera flub, some flub happened at his moment, and it was kind of great. Like nobody ever wants that to happen live, but it was also kind of great to see him sort of like, dang it, oh man, I really wish, it's you practice, and that's the beauty of live stuff, and everybody was very sort of fraternal, and everybody was celebratory that night, and everybody was just in full appreciation of the institution of the show and comedy in general, and who everybody was gathered there, because it was every generation of influential comedian, and I was like, I finally for the first time was bold enough to say, just so you know, in this moment, this is a very special moment for me, sort of speaking to like making your intention clear. It was like I was very vulnerable with him, very honest. You were so influential in my life, and I look to you, and you've just been a hero of mine, and it is really just one of the greatest honors to get to do this. He's like, hey man, I appreciate it. I feel you. I'm still looking around. I'm like, that's Bill frickin' Murray, and like, so it was a cool moment. And then the show ended, and he's like, hey, you guys want to ride to the party? So me and Jay Farrow rode with Jim in his car to the after party for 40, which was just a very like the most surreal moment in a surreal job. And then I was working on my show that's on ABC, and one of the costumers was like, hey, I helped style Jim, and he told me to say hi to you. And then I was like,
dude,
whatever.
Wow.
Whatever. What's the point anymore?
Wow.
Yeah.
My eyes
really
were definitely
nice.
watering during that story.
Yeah, thanks.
Anyone could empathize with having a hero, meeting them.
Yeah.
Then working with them, gaining their respect. Also, Jim is also one of mine.
Yeah.
So I like this to put yourself. I mean, that's crazy.
It's crazy. It is crazy.
That's crazy.
It is.
And then to connect with him on a level of seeing who his influence is, or one of them with Bill Murray, and seeing the even a king is upset when something, as if it matters, as if this is going to affect him in any way. But still, we all want the laugh that bad.
Yeah.
We're human.
Yes.
Yeah, man. That's very, very cool. So you're somebody that we know each other. We know each other.
Yeah.
We don't know each other well. We've hung out, just the two of us. This is our second time. We follow each other on social, so I feel like I get it. But I don't know you that well.
Okay.
And I look at you. I've known you since before I've met you. Like like I watched your stuff. I think you're hilarious. Got to know you. So hearing these stories of somebody who, I have friends who are on SNL now, right?
Yeah.
You are not that much older than me, but you're the generation where it's like you've done it. You know what I mean? Like you, and to hear there's different tiers of who's done it and what they've accomplished. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But to hear somebody who was on a show that, if I came on as a guest and did something and you were like, good job, it would be like, oh, fucking cool,
Yeah.
But then to hear your version of that with him is, I like that. I mean, that's such a long-winded version of saying, you're on SNL. What's bigger than that?
Sure.
What's bigger? Everything.
Yeah.
And
so many things.
As I've gotten older and worked a little bit, I started to recognize, everything's just a job, and it's as sustainable as it is, and you want to be great on it. But but like when you're on SNL, I used to think when the guest comes on, that must be nerve-wracking. It's out of their element. Not all of them are comedians. They don't have the chemistry with the group. But as I've gotten a little bit more into this business, I realized that no, it's your job to make them comfortable.
Correct.
And you want them to get the win.
Yes.
And that must be difficult enough, let alone when it's somebody that you look up to. Is there something to... My understanding of SNL is when you're new, you're a feature player, you want to make it. Then you want to get sketches on. And then the 8% who have longevity on it, they're like the veterans of the game, and it's not that difficult. But do you have any stories of you coming up and wanting approval, not necessarily from Lorne or from but from the guest itself? And what do you do? Are you starstruck? Are you, I'm on SNL, this is my job?
Yeah, I mean, yes, my sort of like knee-jerk reaction is, yeah, of course, all the time. I had sort of a unique situation having worked enough, not a ton, but enough, and that I've done a few pilots and guest appearances and small movie roles. And even before that, the half a season I did at Mad TV, I felt like I had enough reps.
Yes. Workouts.
Yes. In that sort of format to my goal for myself, even just in the first 2 seasons, was like work hard, be appreciative, but also like sit into it, as opposed to don't try too hard. Don't rub people the wrong way. You don't need to be hungry. Yes, it was because I watched people, like I got hired on Mad TV with Bobby Lee and this other performer, Catherine Fiore, and Catherine and I weren't brought back the next year. But I watched Bobby and I watched other people, and then became friends with Ike and Josh Myers a little bit, and like kind of watched their journey through the show. And I guess this is most specific to Bobby because Bobby and I tested together, we got the job together, we started together, and he did that show for 7-8 years, maybe longer. And every time I'd check back in with him, it was some version of, man, it's a marathon, not a sprint, and then I would hear that at SNL even as I was starting. Like I think Will Forte said maybe that exact thing, and Seth Meyers would say,
how would you expand on it's a marathon, not a sprint?
If you want to succeed, whatever your definition of success on this show is, it will take time. It just always takes time, and you have to. I think I interpreted it that the true success is that you can still be hitting and still be doing work that you're proud of and that you're excited by in year 5, 6, 7 as you are in year 1, 2, and not to go, here's all my tricks, here's everything I can do, and kind of burn out quickly.
There's a quote in Steve Martin's book that I think about all the time. He said, he's talking about stand-up, but I think of it as performing comedy in general. Anybody could be great sometimes. It's not about being great. It's about consistently being good. Yeah, that's making me think of that. You have to, not show, you just have to make sure you're consistent.
Correct. Yeah. And part of that job is sort of the social dynamic of it, of can you coexist with these people? Do you just get along? Are you excited to be around these people?
Does it feel like a high school thing?
Very much. Yeah. Yeah. Very much.
And when you come in, you're the freshman, and
for sure. I think that dynamic is true of any sort of institution, any job that you get. I think that you'll spend any amount of years at. 4 years plus, it starts to feel like I'm the newbie or I'm the senior. I think that's just sort of human nature, or at least society nature.
There's not that many shows that go on for a long time where you keep reintroducing new cast every year or two, though.
Correct.
So that's younger people are coming in, when normally a show you're with the same group.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, so there are classes and there's for sure. But going back to your question of wanting to please and wanting, the show does a great job of sort of dulling you to the newness and excitement. I think if you're at all like clued in or savvy, you realize that the people who do, go, oh my God, okay, and let their nerves or let their jitters or let their fandom take over, that more often than not doesn't end well. But you look at Leslie Jones, who's just like, who's more full of life and honest to who she is, and anybody that she's excited to meet gets all of her attention 110%, but it's very endearing, it's very charming, and she's also
the attention is probably honest as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think pretty early, the long-winded point I'm trying to make is that early into the season, I sort of got the vibe, and I was sort of desensitized to like, holy shit, that's Robert De Niro, because at the same time, you do need them to, lick a prop lollipop in a funny way when the camera's on them, and you have to convey that to, like, great, that's great, Robert De Niro, but again, wait till the light's on and then take a big lick of that lollipop, and you have to be able to communicate.
What's the connection between being a fan of someone and making sure they can lick the lollipop? I don't know what that means.
Well, because you have to be able to speak directly and speak with confidence.
Oh, right, because you're the one directing or talking.
Yeah, exactly. Correct.
I don't have... I never got starstruck. I've met all of them.
Yeah.
It's never happened to me. It has 2 times, but it never happened to me up until
today.
This is the 3rd time it's happened.
Yeah.
Jokes aside, working on the comedians, it happened. I didn't know that Larry Charles was directing it.
Oh, cool.
And when I got in the van, and then Larry Charles walks in, and I saw that not only am I meeting him, he's going to be working with me.
Yeah.
And I said a joke, and he laughed a little, but he said, "Save it." I never heard. I've heard that a million times since.
Yeah.
I even said it to you. Save it for the podcast. And when people say
yeah.
that, I never heard that expression. So I thought that makes so much sense. I waste it all the time. You know, we all have a finite amount of energy. If we think we're invincible until the chemicals wear away. You know.
Yeah.
Then I was conscious of, okay, Rick, don't be too eager. And then I auditioned for Curb a few times, and the audition for Curb is with Larry, and you're auditioning with him. And then there were a couple moments in there where I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I had to stop what I thought I should have done because I knew that my intention was disingenuous, which was not about this scene. It was about, I want to show Larry my tricks.
Yeah.
Those are the two moments I felt it, and I wasn't there. Like what you're saying of holding yourself back. When I'm holding myself back, I don't know. At least at the time, I don't. Maybe I could now. I don't know. I don't know how far to hold myself back.
Right.
So I just became a robot, and I think I did okay. I didn't get the role, but
I guess that there is a like an alternate version where you get confident in like how much to give, where you do sort of adjust and calibrate to like, my focus is on the material and on the show, and this is what this scene requires, or this sketch requires, or this film short, whatever, and you go. I also, what comes at SNL, and it is brilliantly structured in that you have this meeting and you all try to pitch one joke at pitch to make the host laugh and show them that, okay, I'm in good hands, and then you're writing all.
What does it mean? The host is there, and the host watches everyone tell one joke?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, he comes into Lorne's office, and they go, pitch, and all the writers and cast gather, and they sit on the floor of Lorne's office. And Lorne goes, all right, Klein, we'll start with you. And then Rob Klein will pitch. All right, I'm thinking about working on, one of my favorite pitches was his, which is in a sketch where you're bitten by Spider-Man and you become a Spider-Man man. And it would just be that. Like, that's all you have to pitch. And hopefully it gets a laugh, and then they move on to the next one.
And everyone does one.
Yes. Yeah, one or two. Sometimes they'll do two.
And is part of that seeing what the host connects with?
Yes. Feeling out their sensibilities. It's a weird dance because I feel that for most of the cast and the writers, what they're pitching is never what they're actually going to work on. For some of them it is, especially when you're new, they really encourage, like, just tell us what you're working on. And I think that that's what Lorne wants it to be, is where are we at? Get a good gauge for the week. What is the intention? Who's going to be working on, Kit Harington hosted recently, who's going to be doing the Game of Thrones sketch. And sometimes people would kind of, put their stamp on it, lick that topic first by going, I have a Game of Thrones idea that I'm working on, I'll tell you about, or whatever. But more often than not, it's just creating a positive mood, a mood of excitement. And it's very host dependent. Like Jim Carrey would take over and it would be his show and he'd be spitballing. Right. You'd go, so I have an idea for the Amazon. He's like, all right, yeah. And then suddenly there's piranhas jumping out. I'm like, hey man, mind if I have a bite? And, and just like, sure, that. And then you can move on to the next one. And then there'd be some real bummers too, where you're like, uh-oh, they're not laughing at anything. And if anything, they're criticizing some of these ideas. This doesn't bode well for the week. But then by the time you've written it, rehearsed it, produced it, there's the after party. And that's where people, have a few drinks and they go like, hey man, just so you know, it's such an honor to work with you. And oh man, Taxi Driver, what was that like? Depending on how sauced you are.
Did you make any friends that were people that you met on SNL as a guest? Musician or guest?
Not close friends, no, because you sort of stay with the machine and they go on and they live a life. So it's hard to be social outside of that. Plus I have a family and children. So my off time was about getting back home. But there are people that I'm certainly friendly with.
You have two kids.
I do. Two children.
Girls?
Yeah.
And one of them's, I think that turning 10 next month, and then one's 4.
Yes.
That means you had one kid when you were on SNL.
Yeah, she was 1 year old when I got it.
And you and your wife and your kid then lived in New York?
No, Kobe, my wife, was on How I Met Your Mother, which shot for another 4 years out here while I started SNL. So for 4 years, I was commuting every hiatus week. I was flying back.
So you were only at New York for work, and then you came back here?
Correct.
Gotcha. So you have a family. You're not living in New York, really.
Right.
You're just there. So you're an adult.
Yeah.
You're not thinking, I want to make friends with Jim Carrey, as much as I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
This is just, I'm here running with a machine.
Yes.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I liked it. I remember, I would assume you have. I'd be presumptuous to guess that you've read Live from New York, the book.
I have not read it.
Have you not read it? Really?
No.
You should read it.
I will.
I've read it 3 or 4 times
What
in
is
my lifetime.
what is this?
It's sort of the story of SNL as told by the people who lived it, and it's done in that, sort of
since the beginning.
Since the very beginning,
Cool.
where these guys interviewed every producer, writer, cast.
Tell me the name of the book one more time.
Live from New York.
It's just called Live from New York.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The story of Saturday Night Live. And so I was a fan of the show, huge fan of the show, and sort of a student of the show by the time I got it. And Jane Curtin sort of had that sort of same process where she was married and she and her husband lived in Connecticut. So I think she would like do the show and then go home, and she wasn't out partying and going crazy. So I always I used that as an example of it being possible, because you definitely, I was like, hey, is this going to work? I was sort of the right age. I was 27 when I got the show. Which
That's
is
the
like,
right age because you're not too young.
not too young, not too old, and there are exceptions on either side of people who did start very young and were great, and people who started too young, and people who did start very old and were great, and people who started too old. But I always use sort of Jane's experience as a good sort of navigation of like, yeah, it's possible, and she was one of the best ever on the show, I thought.
That's the goal. I mean, maybe it's just the age I'm at, but I feel like I've been like, I want a family.
Yeah.
I want a career. I want to be able to have a nice house and yada and work consistently, yada yada. But it just seems so unsustainable, or at least who knows when you're going to work, when you're not going to. Especially something like SNL, where you literally don't know if you have a job the next year, and even though the show is going to continue.
Yeah,
and that's probably feel like to have that safety of knowing I literally am going home, not to go stress about something, but to work on something that's way more important than my job.
Yeah.
I feel that's like, what a good hack to have that.
It's great perspective, and just for me and who I am has always been the priority. But there's good and bad too. Yeah, I do think that there's a trade-off, because everything is about balance, and having a family certainly kept me out of those hiatus weeks and big trips that people would all go on together, and the bonding that happens in developing the shorthand and the social connection.
You couldn't go on trips and stuff because as a married man with a kid, you can't do that kind of stuff. Is that true?
It never. There were some rare exceptions where I'd be, Kobe, I really want to go do this trip that everybody's doing, but that was very rare because Kobe was here with our kid and she was working full time,
right.
and we had a wonderful nanny and a lot of help, but I just missed them too. Just selfishly, you want to get back to them.
Sure.
So it's just about that balance. It's about what your sort of formula is, what your equation is of work to career ratio, and how much you can dedicate, how much energy you can dedicate to each of those categories.
When you did King Lear on Hamilton, you were gonna say something?
On top of Hamilton.
Okay. Here's where I am.
King Henry? Henry VIII?
Yeah, it's King George III.
King Edward. King George the third. You know it's the third, so you know there's 2 other King Georges.
And you have
I'm
to
just
assume he
trying
wasn't
to.
the last.
Yeah.
I know King Joffrey.
Great.
I know, incidentally, and I don't know if I'm using this right, but small world when I say King Hippo.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I still remember the password of Tyson, 007-373-5963.
Wow.
Did
you? But you could beat it all the way through without that. Yeah.
When I picked up the game, and I would, you go, and if anybody knows this, it's you.
Yeah.
You sometimes will go years without playing Mike Tyson's Punch-Out and then play again. If I felt like I haven't played it in a while, whatever that while means, before I would do it, I would have to get to Tyson again.
Yeah.
But then if I lost, which you do most of the time, one hit in the first 2 minutes, good night.
Yes.
I'm just going into it. Yeah, but I did feel like, and that's something that I really think is, listen, we all have our flaws. We're human. But where I stand out with my peers is I have a lot of friends that would go straight to Tyson. And that's, I guess, okay. But there is a sense of accomplishment of I beat the game as opposed to I beat Tyson.
All games I played using the Game Genie felt so much less satisfying than playing a game all the way through.
Game Genie is like having sex maybe even very good sex with a beautiful woman, but you don't have that connection. You're not
don't
making
love her.
love.
You don't
You're not
love,
making
yeah,
love.
correct.
And by the way,
It's a great analogy.
I don't want to sell too much. I'm like the Michael Jordan of metaphors.
Okay.
Basketball.
Oh,
Analogies.
sorry.
I'm like Michael Jordan.
You've lost me.
All right, picture this. Then 5
I'm
minutes
listening.
of I don't know. Just But yeah, when you sometimes sex with somebody who's beautiful who you're not connected with, but you respect her and she should be paid more than you. Okay, and it doesn't matter what she looks like.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know what? Oh,
I don't
girl.
know. All right. I don't think you've learned the right lesson.
Women are more important than men.
I don't. That's not what they want.
You're on the wrong side of history, dude.
All right.
Without women, we wouldn't have television, sports, comedy, muscles, good driving, dicks, balls. Because
That's it. Really interesting.
oh God, such a woman the way you're behaving right now. No, but all jokes aside, you have to. What's happening right now is so important. Since I was a little kid,
This podcast.
well, having this voice that we have on this podcast. So yes,
Sure.
women have been. All right, I'm gonna come clean.
Oh boy. Oh no.
I don't know. I don't know
What
what I'm
did I
supposed
walk
to.
into?
I don't know what I'm
with
supposed
my
to.
shoes off.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm supposed to. How I'm supposed to feel about women.
Oh, I think just treat them as an equal and with respect. No. All right.
No, I'm just kidding. Does any of this translate in a way that is at least funny enough, but isn't making me look like I'm being? Do you get it? You get what I'm doing?
Is there enough irony?
And is it clear enough, but not too clear to where people have heard it before?
Right.
All right. So I had a point.
When you did King Lear is, I think, how this started.
No, boring. Who cares?
Okay.
Mike Tyson's punch out is like sex, right? So there I am, fucking this girl, right? And I'm about to bust, but I'm 3 minutes into
Sure.
the second round of Tyson.
You can feel that she's bald bull and about to charge you.
Oh! It's a high five for the audio and people watching.
Nice.
They get it. That one's for you. Okay. So
As a lover,
yes,
what Mike Tyson opponent are you most like? Everybody wants to be Don Flamenco, I think.
I think
Right?
I never wanted to be. I used to want to be Piston Honda.
Okay.
I had a thing about I Dragging the Bruce Lee story was Bruce Lee to me. I didn't watch Bruce Lee stuff. I just
Okay.
knew he was the best.
Oh.
So I had this thing about Asian fighters.
Got it.
Yeah. And actually, this is a great transition into something I didn't want to forget. I loved muscles, still do. Who doesn't love muscles? But I was obsessed with muscles as a kid, and he was the first guy that you fought. That Von Kaiser is an uncle.
Mm-hmm.
Piston Honda was the first guy that you fought that that guy's hot and cool looking.
Yeah, jacked.
I had Schwarzenegger all over my wall. I didn't have pictures of Ace Ventura. I had Schwarzenegger. I don't know how to spell anything.
Okay.
I remember I saw a jaywalking with Jay Leno where he goes on the street and offered anybody $1 million if they could spell Schwarzenegger. SCHWARZENEGGER. I could spell Schwarzenegger. I remember I actually had daydreams where I'm going to be on that and win him. It was more about winning the $1 million, but I could do this thing.
Yes.
He is the guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you did a movie. Killing Gunther, which I haven't seen.
That's okay.
And I can see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will be watching it.
I'll allow it.
I've seen the trailer. You wrote, directed, starred in an action movie opposite the King.
Yeah.
If I can name a king.
Sure.
And I will. Schwarzenegger.
King Conan.
Is he somebody to you?
Yeah.
Jim Carrey was somebody to me, but I think your Jim Carrey was my Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Was he one of those for you?
He very much so. Very much so. I think there was a separation because with Jim it was like I love that. I want to do that. I can do some of that.
Right.
It's not original to me, but there's a kinship. There's a sort of Avatar-ish relationship.
Where Schwarzenegger's like, I'm never going to be in the NBA as much as I love basketball.
Correct. But every movie, Terminator 2 is the first rated R movie I saw in the theaters.
Just rewatched.
So good. So good.
First rated R movie I saw in the theaters as well.
Wow. Yeah. Huge. And working with him was only a pleasure and a privilege. I was very stressed about it. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, so you write the movie with him in mind?
No way.
You write the movie, and this it's about Schwarzenegger is the best hitman in the world, and to prove your worth and or to get more work or whatever the situation may be, your mission is to kill this guy.
Correct.
So you wrote this thinking this guy, I don't know who I'll cast. It'll be somebody strong. It'll be somebody who's known as an action hero. What were you thinking?
I wrote a movie, sort of an homage love letter to movies that I tried to do a mashup of Spinal Tap and Waiting for Guffman and an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, a Bruce Willis, Arnold Schwarzenegger action movie. And I think I got close. I don't know if I certainly didn't nail that, but I think I got close in terms of the finished product. My struggle with it was what I wrote was I want to do something with my friend. Like I started writing it very early into I think I thought of it before and started writing it early into my SNL tenure. And was like, what's a movie where I can hire people I love and people who make me laugh and people I like spending time with and cast them in roles that they would never be cast in and have it be sort of this absurd comedy action movie. And then the structure of it and the narrative of it was there'll be this really cool cameo in sort of the last 10, 15 minutes. And maybe we can get somebody really cool. But initially I was like a Jeff Goldblum would be so fun, or a John Malkovich, or somebody you don't expect, just who's going to do us a favor and will be a fun, silly, when he shows up, people are like, oh my God. And we pitched it to a few people who said no. And then one of those people was the agent shared an agent with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And the agent said,
is this
Michael
Agent
Kivas,
Ryan? Okay.
Michael Kivas, who literally made this happen, and I'm very, very grateful to him. He said, Arnold is looking to do a comedy, he's looking to do a movie, and this is the right size, and this is sort of the perfect fit. Would you consider him? It's literally like,
whoa,
was the email. Would you consider Arnold? I was like, shut up.
Is there somebody, could you think of anybody you'd rather in the world?
No.
That's the number one choice.
100%. But it all went very well, and he enjoyed reading the script, and I met with him. I FaceTimed with him. I met with him at his house.
Wow.
And, was pitching him the idea, and he said, yeah, let's do it.
You then write out his role bigger, right?
Well, I should have, and I didn't, because I was a first-time director, I was a first-time producer, and the ball, we'd already been in prep for, so I think that's the number one lesson that I learned, or the number one.
Which is what? Take advantage of
a star. We didn't get like a fun cameo of a talented famous person. We got the biggest action star of all time. And we still kind of structured him to this little to the third act, which I think is the best part of the movie, obviously, because it's him. But if I were to go back and change anything, it would be to bring him into the mix.
And you directed him.
Yeah.
Did he make suggestions to you? Did he agree with you? Did he disagree with you? Were you intimidated?
I was very intimidated. He was very prepared. He had alt jokes for himself prepared for different moments.
Do you think he wrote them himself?
I think some of them, yeah, for sure. And but he definitely had a team there too to help him. But he was generous. He was punctual. He was prepared. And more than anything, he trusted me. He said, I think you have this in your head, and tell me what you want, and and was very agreeable with that. There was nothing that he really said no to, which was pretty amazing.
I met Arnold once. We share a doctor, an orthopedic.
Oh, wonderful.
And I was getting an MRI, and then he walked in. He also was going to get an MRI, and he walked past me, and he said, "How you doing?" to me with the eye contact, which I think the words he meant to say was "you're welcome." The way he delivered it, like he knows this, that he just did me a favor.
Yes.
There was a sense of confidence that, of course, I didn't have to see him getting an MRI to understand, but there's a sense of confidence of I'm the number one action hero of all time.
Yes.
I'm the strongest, coolest guy of all time. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
So does he come into a movie with that same confidence and energy where none of this matters and I'm the guy?
Yeah, definitely. But I think what makes him what I appreciated most in collaborating with him is that he does trust you to do your job too. It's not who cares, it's all good, I'm going to be me no matter what.
Good.
It's I'll step up if you show me that you're going to step up. I'm going to bring you my best, but you have to show me first that you have done the work and you know what you want and you know what you're doing. And that was what I did. That's what I was doing was I'd never worked harder. I'd never done more prep. I'd never been more prepared or felt more confident of what I was trying to execute and wanted to, at the very least, show him that respect. I think that's what he deserved with all he's accomplished.
What's the first laugh you got from him?
Oh, that's a good question. He got the first laugh, really. It was the first time we were going to FaceTime. I was in the offices at SNL, and I was expecting a call, and it came up, a number that I knew was his, and I'm like running to get back to my office because I was writing on something with someone and ran back, and I was like, hey, how's it going? This is Taran. And it was one of his team, one of his assistants or his team. He's like, hey, Taran, how's it going? I'm going to hand you over to Arnold now. And he passes me to Arnold, and it's Arnold sitting at his desk in his office, smoking a cigar in front of, a 5-6 foot oil painting of himself from the Pumping Iron days. And he's like, Taran, how you doing? And I was like, hey, Arnold, how's it going, man? So nice to meet you. And he's like, yeah, that's the before. This is the after. And I was like, that's great. That's an awesome line. I was like, man, what are you? You're aging beautifully. What are you, a fine wine or a former action star? Something like that. He's like, I'm both.
Oh,
Best.
Ooh.
The best. Yeah. He's great.
wow, man.
It was yeah.
So he is basically the single cam version of what Ben Stiller is in Dodgeball. That's what I'm picturing his office.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's so crazy. So
It was
you're
awesome.
So then, and he goes, I'd like to do the movie.
He's like, so yeah, I'm going to. They sent me the script. I like the breakdown of it. I'm going to read it this weekend.
Oh, so he FaceTimed you before
I'm
you even
here-
read it.
Yeah, I'm here in Idaho. I'm going to read it. It sounds very funny. It sounds very sort of fitting to sort of my body of work.
You're becoming
and whatever.
French now, isn't that?
But he's like, I'll read it and I'll call you after the weekend. And I was like, great. And then I was at a birthday party for like one of my child's friends at an ice rink and got the same
The
number.
most most normal place to possibly be.
I ran out to like the Hudson River. And I was like, hey, what's is this Taran hanging out? What's up? He's like, Taran, hey, I read the script. I love it. Let's do this. And I
That's
was like,
it. He
"That's
calls you. He
That's
tells
it."
you.
Yeah. And I walk back in. I go, Kobe. He said, yeah, he's doing this movie.
What's the budget of a movie like that for a first time person?
What it was budgeted out as is very different from what it became. So we were trying to do it for around 2, and it ended up being about 7.
Really?
Yeah.
How does that happen? If you somebody has to
His
250% more?
his fee. So there's above the line and below the line.
Yeah.
Do you know that the above the line
Yes.
is like talent, producers, director, and below the line is the logistical budget of locations and the crew and the hourly. And so the above the line, categorically through SAG and through the unions, there are these different tiers of films. There's like a SAG experimental, and then a SAG ultra low budget, and then a SAG low budget. And as soon as the above the line jumps a tier, everything else jumps, right? So suddenly
You have to pay
for
your
a SAG
audio
ultra
more.
low budget, what you're going to do, what you're going to pay the crew and what's promised at the back end, suddenly you have to guarantee their pay up front.
Right.
So everything inflates, everything goes up. And then just with post, and there were, we had some.
So once a
exposure
little
stuff.
bit comes up, then it literally takes everything else up.
There was a moment where literally we were going to go up by 200,000 or whatever, and within that 200,000 meant we were going to jump $1.5 million
Wow.
or something like that. And yeah.
Do you have to pay him a like quote anything what he gets paid normally?
Yeah, he got
real money for it.
He got a good check, yeah.
Good. Congratulations, man.
Thanks, dude.
You made
Thank
a product and paid Arnold a real quote.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you happy
And
with the movie?
I am. Yes.
How was it received?
Not great.
What is that? Not great. What does that mean?
In that we didn't get the distribution that we wanted. We didn't get sort of the release that we wanted. But I think that comes out of the quality of it. I think ultimately it just everybody's waiting to see Arnold, and the chunk leading up to that just wasn't funny enough.
Wasn't funny enough.
Yeah.
How could you have made it funnier? I mean, because the people that are in that movie
Yeah.
are hysterical.
Yeah, and
So
I
what
think
does
it
that
is
mean?
funny. I think
I mean, was it? It
I
also,
just
it's
think
not
from
just a comedy. I mean, the movies that you mentioned that you want to make it an
Yes.
amalgam of
Yeah.
aren't even comedies.
Yeah, that's true. I think it I think just joke for joke in terms of screen time and just remaining engaging, it wasn't strong enough until the arrival of Arnold, and then once he's in the film, I stand by it, and I think it's as funny and enjoyable and as good as anything out there.
What have you? Is it your only time directing?
Yeah, the feature. Yeah.
Is that something you want to do?
Yeah, I'll do that again. I'm writing the next thing.
Dude, you've had some cool wins, huh?
I'm doing all right.
Yeah.
I'm doing all right. Yeah. I'm trying to be better at sort of taking moments to look at it and not just charging forward to the next thing, because that's what's sort of driven me for the last 20, 25 years.
What made you recognize that you want to shift and smell the roses?
The move out here to California, we moved back after doing Hamilton, and we purchased this house, and we just moved.
Did you
into that
you and your
house.
wife both do Hamilton?
She did a different Broadway show at the same time, a Noel Coward show called Present Laughter with Kevin Kline. So we got to do Broadway at the same time, which was
Who played Hamilton
cool one.
when you were doing it?
mostly a guy named Javon McFerrin, because the main guy he hurt his back very badly.
And you did it for what, 8 months?
Javier.
Did I make that number up?
Three and change.
This is a cheap question.
Okay.
What's the coolest thing that you've ever done?
Whoa.
Within the business.
In showbiz.
Yeah.
The coolest thing that I've ever done, being a part of the 40th anniversary of SNL, is way up there. Certainly the most impressive, if I'm going to back pat myself, is getting a film made and the people who participated, and that I still go like, wow, I did that. That's crazy. Coolest thing to me as like who I am, kind of reconnecting to who I started out as, who I was as a boy in the dreams. I created a comic book, and we did 6 issues of that. And
What's the
that was
comic book
It's
called?
called The Illegitimates. And I'm very proud of that. That's really good.
You're
It's
done
about-
with it? It's just 6.
No, we'll do more. It's just been about time, but it's
I'm sorry, what were you saying it's about?
a sort of James Bond-esque super agent is killed, and his replacement are 5 of his bastard children that he's sired with different femme fatales and female agents over the years.
I want to ask that question one more time and ask it a little differently.
'Kay.
You're at UCLA, you're a freshman. You have not done Mad TV yet. You've had a little bit of experience. Picturing something that you've accomplished now as that 19-year-old, to me, it feels like as much as the Arnold thing is unbelievable, to me, it feels still like the Jim Carrey moment. But there could be some.
Sure.
When I was working on Undateable, it was my first. It was an NBC multicam. It was the first job I've ever gotten, and it was very cool. And there were some cool moments. We shot this pilot, live studio audience. I mean, this whole thing. This is great. Nothing had a moment of, oh my gosh, I'm doing something, until we were shooting. It was either the second or third episode when I pulled onto Warner Brothers, and I had Rick Glassman, a spot on the Warner Brothers lot.
Yeah.
And when I saw that was my conscious moment of, whoa, what's happening? I'll always remember that feeling. That was not the biggest, but that was the first time I ever had a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah.
The show already got picked up. I didn't feel it yet.
Yeah.
Picturing that thing with Jim Carrey to me is that.
Yeah, I think more potent than that is just getting the call of getting SNL. Just Seth Meyers calling me the night after my meeting with Lorne, the first sort of one-on-one sit down.
So the head writer calls you, not Lauren.
It's different. It's different for everybody. Sometimes it's Lorne. Sometimes he'll say it in the meeting. Sometimes he'll call. Sometimes Lindsay Shookus, the head of talent, will call. Mine was Seth.
Were you waiting for a call? Did you know I'm
No.
hearing either way?
No.
You could never hear anything.
I could never hear anything.
So you
I could get on a
audition,
plane. Mhm.
And the audition is in front of Lauren and a few people, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I did that 3 times.
3 times in the same season, like 3 callbacks, or
Twice in one season, and then a third time a year later.
So you auditioned twice. You got so close, you didn't get it.
Correct.
The next year, they want to have you back. Whoa, they know what I could do. They want to see me again.
Exciting.
Right. You go in, you do a different audition,
Correct.
and then then after that, how many days before the meeting that you're talking about?
Probably 2 weeks-ish.
Okay, you have an audition. You don't know anything.
Yeah.
I can never hear anything. In 2 weeks, you say, hey, I want to have a meeting.
Yeah.
This is a step you never got to before.
Correct.
You go in and who you meet with?
So I go in and they've invited somewhere between like 6 and 8 people. I know that Paul Britton and Vanessa Bayer, who I got hired with,
Went to high
were
school with
there.
Vanessa.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, get out of here. Wait, we talked about this.
I don't know if
didn't
we
that.
did.
From Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cleveland.
Maybe at Bill's house we did.
Okay.
Maybe. Because that's familiar to me.
So you guys are the same year.
We got hired the same year, Paul Britton and Jay Farrow. So they were all.
So 4 of the
this thing.
6 got on.
4 of the 6, maybe. So maybe it is closer to 7 or 8 because there were at least 3 other people there. And we're all kind of going around the 17th floor. I was brought into the talent office and sat there, and I met the head of the wardrobe department, the talent department.
Do you know what this
everybody.
means yet? What this meeting means?
Kind of, just because I'd had friends. Naseem and I were friends from UCLA, and then she got it the year before, and so I'd sort of seen her go through it. My friend Jillian Bell was hired as a writer that same year, and so I knew enough people who had gone through the process to know that this is sort of like just a crazy check, you know? Everybody wants to meet you and feel you out. They kind of already know if they're thinking about hiring you or not. But I think they hedge their bets and they bring people who are like, we don't know if this is the person, but we'll bring them out and kind of get a feel for them because maybe we fall in love with who they are just, you know, on their own. And so you kind of go from room to room, and I was brought into like Steve Higgins' office, and I sat with Steve and with Seth, and you know, they were talking about like old Jack Benny bits that I wasn't super familiar with, but you just kind of go, yeah. Oh, so great. One of the best.
I get scared that I'll get called out for those moments.
Yeah. me too. I tried not to affirm so much that I was like, oh, I love that one. And then they go, well, then what's the next line?
Yeah.
Oh shoot!
Which
one were you talking about?
when you were telling me the castmate who it was, I know like a few names who played Hamilton, but the name that you said I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to go, who's that? Because it didn't matter. But I also didn't want to lie to you. I just went, oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then there was about 20 seconds where I wasn't present with you anymore, worried about if you say, oh yeah, what's his, you know, what else has he done?
Amazing. Yeah. So you get it. And then ultimately finished with me going in, meeting with Lorne and sitting and talking to him. And then I went out. That was done by like 8 PM. And I talked to one of the other people there, this woman named Jet, who I knew Paul and was like friendly. We had mutual friends. And I was like, what are you guys doing? Because there's a lot of people from Chicago. And I think I was the only person from LA. And they said, oh, we're going to all go get dinner. I was like, well, yeah. And she's like, you should come. I said, I'd love that. So I went, but I didn't know her last name. And I went to the front desk of the hotel and I was like, hi, could I have Jet's information, please? And they're like, ooh, Jet who? And I was like, I don't know. Can I leave a message for Jet? And they're like, you can leave it. No. They're like, if you don't have more. And I was like, okay. So I just went down to, like Union Square area, like 13th and University. I went to Chocolate by the Bald Man, Max Brenner's restaurant.
Oh.
Do you know?
No.
You don't know that one?
No.
It's like a chocolate themed restaurant.
Awesome.
It's like Applebee's, but with a focus on chocolate. More of a focus on chocolate.
Chocolate is a secret ingredient for whatever
things.
this thing is. Right.
Chocolate bread for your club sandwich.
That's kind of interesting.
I just sort of wanted to indulge, and I was like, man, no matter what, this is awesome.
So you're supposed to have dinner with Jet. Because you don't know last name.
I was like, hey, I'm gonna.
And
meet
you
up
couldn't
with these
Google
people.
it?
Not at that time, I don't think.
It's 2007?
10.
Yeah, you could Google it.
I didn't.
So you're like, all right, so here's a dinner.
I'm going to take a night to myself. Here's a dinner, and I'm going across the street, and I'm watching
blow
the
them off.
first Expendables.
Okay. Wait, what does that mean? You went and you saw it in the theaters?
In the theaters by myself.
Okay.
And then I walked from 13th and University back up to 54th and 6th to my hotel. And it's now 1-ish in the morning, close to. And my phone rings, and it's a New York number. And
this is the same day as the meeting, right?
Yeah. It's like, Tarran, hey, it's Seth Meyers. We know you have like an early flight, right? And I was like, yeah. I'm getting picked up first flight out. And he's like, well, we thought we'd make that flight a little bit easier for you. On behalf of Lorne Michaels, I'd like to offer you a job at SNL. You know, I was like, holy shit.
Wow.
Holy shit. Yeah, it was crazy.
Are you guys friends?
Yes.
Will you text him and ask him something?
Okay.
You don't have to do it at the moment. In fact, you might as well.
Okay.
I'm going to... So back to the Neil Brennan story.
Great. Yep.
Neil Brennan, I did Just for Laughs my first year I did it.
Montreal?
Montreal. It's New Faces, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
Everybody in the country who want the auditions for it, 20 people get it, and then you showcase for the industry, basically. This is the introduction to us. And I did it, and the host is a guy that I know. I've seen him around. He doesn't know me, but I've seen him around. It's Neil Brennan.
Oh, okay.
And I used to have this bit where
Coming to the
I have an
stage
introduction written down.
from Los
and
Angeles.
the audience sees me hand it to the host.
Wait, what's this?
And the point of that for me is the audience knows he's saying my words. The audience knows I could get him to say whatever I want, and this is what I choose.
Yeah.
And it basically just reads, hey, give it up for the last comic. Funny stuff. This next guy's super cool. He plays all the clubs and colleges around town. He does it his own way without stepping on anyone's toes. You know, it was the most standard nothing. Please put your hands together for Ron Gladish. And everyone applauds, and I walk out, and I say, it's Rick Glassman. And I look at the card and I realize that is my mistake. And that's my first joke.
Great.
They said that everybody has to have the same introduction because it's not fair if we give some people may have more credits than others, and we want everything to be normal. So the host, all they say is the person's name and where they're from.
Okay.
But I want to do this joke, and they said you can't do it. And I said this is not really an introduction. This is my first joke, so you could start the time as soon as I walk out to hand it to him. And they said okay, and then I just. Oh, thank God. You know, I need that to kind of define I'm doing these things on purpose.
Oh, no.
So so I go up to Neil. Do you know Neil?
Yeah.
One of the most talented working stand-up comics today, right?
Ever, maybe, yeah.
He has the intimidating presence of somebody who knows that.
Yes.
Right? He's co-created the Chappelle Show. What else do you need to have done? And he's done the other things, right?
Yes.
So, hey Neil, I got permission to break the rules for something. So could you do this? And he said, what is it? And I showed it to him, and he reads it, and he goes, yep. Kindly, yeah. Not, but short. And there are a couple of beats that I need him to hit. I'm directing him. He didn't sign up for this.
Sure.
There's a moment where I want him to laugh at something, but I don't want it to be a joke. I want people to think he thinks this is funny.
Okay.
So I say a couple of things, and I'm nervous for my own world, let alone I want Neil to do this right, I've done that joke. I did that for a few months before and a year after. So I had done it for almost 2 years. Nobody did it right.
Yeah.
It's fine, but nobody did what I wanted. Neil did it right. That was the only time it ever happened.
Amazing.
And I went out and I did my set, and it's 7 minutes or so, and then that was the end of it. And I got a nice response from it, and Neil came up to me and said, hey, man, good job. Seth Meyers was in the audience, and he said for the first 2 minutes he didn't understand. He delivered this compliment as an insult. He said the first 2 minutes he didn't understand it, and he even said, "What is this guy doing here?" And then he said, "But once you got into it." He said he started to get it, and he thought you were absolutely hysterical, and I thought you might want to hear that, which I did.
Yeah.
And also, I always remember that. I don't think about it. But when Neil went up on stage and said, I've known Rick for so long, I've never seen him do well, I wanted to say, bullshit, you told me that Seth Meyers liked me. There's no way Seth remembers that. Neil doesn't remember it. But I want to know if Seth remembers it.
Okay.
So I think I think that tape exists somewhere.
Oh, great.
So what I'd like from you is threefold.
Oh, geez.
Send him the tape. Ask if he remembers it, and I'm going in for a test for a show that is produced by NBC.
Okay.
If I end up getting it, I want to do stand-up on his show. So could you make that all happen for me?
Do I have to cover shipping and handling?
You just email.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. I'm not serious. I never did just for laughs. No. I ended up building it to a way where I was like, oh, ask for this favor, which I don't mean. But I do kind of want you to be like, hey, do you remember in 2012?
I definitely will ask, yeah. Fun.
Text him now.
2012?
2012, Neil Brennan was hosting.
Okay.
Rick Glassman did a set.
Okay. Hey, dude, forgive me for this. I'm on a podcast.
Could you read it as the way he would read it in his voice, please?
Hey, dude, forgive me for this. I'm on a podcast. Has Rick Glassman did New Faces in Montreal in 2012. Neil Brennan told him for the first 2 minutes you thought his set was terrible, but by the end you loved it. Is that true? Also, hi, are you well?
Yeah, it's great.
Send.
No, you might want to also send www.thesixthlead.com,
Okay,
which is a web series
Just
that I
a
made.
link.
Yeah.
He already has it. I just scrolled up in our text chain.
Oh, you
I sent
them.
it like literally a year and a half ago.
Okay, cool.
Great. It's sent.
Great. So chances are the response will come later. So on the bonus content, we'll put that up there.
Yeah.
And before we close this off, I've just been getting some texts from people who found out that you're doing this podcast. It's not true. That they would love if you could send them off with the act break, King George III, when the first time he comes out. If we could hear you perform that and sing that.
Okay.
So, would you like to stand? If so, I'll reframe, or could you do it seated?
Are you accompanying me or am I doing it a cappella?
A cappella.
Okay. I'll sit.
Perfect.
You say the price of my love's not the price that you're willing to pay. You cry in your tea, which you hurl in the sea when you see me go by. Why so sad? Remember we made an arrangement when you went away. Now you're making me mad. Remember, despite our estrangement, I'm your man. You'll be back, soon you'll see. You'll remember you belong to me. You'll be back, time will tell. You'll remember that I served you well. Oceans rise, empires fall. We have seen each other through it all. And when push comes to shove, I will send a fully armed battalion to remind you of my love. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da.
That was Taran Killam on Take Your Shoes Off podcast. Tune in next week where our guest will be Seth Meyers. Thank you so much. You can watch it on YouTube and iTunes and figure it out. My name's Rick Glassman. You've been listening to Take Your Shoes Off podcast. I'm Rick Glassman.
Scoot doo. Blabbity blue, scoop dee. Oh yeah!